give it up to Miss Thembi Buthelezi. Amen.
Good morning, Bazalwane. Good morning on the special Youth and Fathers Day. So we have this beautiful panel of young people, young leaders. So we're just gonna talk about the power of the youth and where we as the youth see us taking this country forward and the support we need from everybody here to take the country forward. So I'd like our panel to introduce themselves and tell us about their superpower. So I'll tell you about myself. My name is Thembelihle Buthelezi, known as Thembi. So my superpower, if I were to be a superhero, is that I listen deeply and I solve problems. Any problem you give me, I'll solve it. So that is my superpower. So I will start with you, Mr. Musa.
Good morning, church. My name is Musa Zwane. I'm a child in the house. My superpower, I've got this ability of attracting attention to myself. Something that I don't want. But I'm also a great cook.
Woo!
Greetings, everybody. My name is Ntabiseng Diko, and I think my superpower would be that I am very good with thinking on the spot and adapting. So if you tell me now, Ntabiseng, go and collect anything, I'll do it, I'll speak, so I can think quick on my feet.
Morning, everyone. My name is Trudy Gomete. So my superpower, I'm a bit boring. So I would like to term myself as an introvert. Yeah, I'm an introvert. So my superpower will be recharging myself at home so that when I meet people, I'm energetic, yeah.
Thank you very much, Sister Thembi. My name is Sergeant Nkosi. So I think my superpower is that I'm a critical thinker. I'm able to see a problem, apply my mind, and come up with solutions for it.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nduturo Mhlomi. My superpower is that I support Arsenal.
Morning, church. My name is Busiso Vilagazi. I think my superpower is staying calm and getting out of difficult situations. So if you ever get arrested, just...
So as South Africans, we all know the history of this day. So Mfundisi, I love how he framed it 2 weeks ago and gave us a deeper meaning of the day. But just to summarize, the June 16, 1976, this is when 20,000 young people in Soweto took a stand to say that we are not in favor of the new laws that are being passed to make Afrikaans equal as an instructional language to English in our schools. So basically the government had said that on top of English, people will be instructed in Afrikaans. And the youth took a stand and said no. They said no, we do not agree with this apartheid, and we see a brighter future, we see a better future for ourselves and this country. So I'll open up this question to my panel to ask, what do we see as the power of the youth today? We celebrate the youth of 1976, but now we've got technologies, we've got new challenges right now. So what is the power of the youth, and what is the future we see as the youth?
Okay, I think I'll kick off. I think as youth, we face different challenges to those that our parents faced. I don't think we always see eye to eye with the view our parents or the elders have on the world, but I think with the lens that we look out of it from, I think our challenge or what we face is solving the problems of our generations as well as some of the lingering problems of the generations before. And I think a lot of the times, older people looking at it out of the lens of these are the problems that are historic problems that we have. But we also have new problems as ourselves. There are a lot of issues that we face today that our parents and our elders never faced. And to get them to understand that, I think at times is very difficult, and to understand that while we aren't saying that those challenges that they had at their time are present, they need to also understand that we ourselves have our own challenges, and it's getting us to fight for our own problems instead of trying to fight at times for the problems that are lingering from the past.
I'd like to piggyback to what Usi was actually saying. I think as young people today, we have an advantage of time. We can look at things from what our forefathers or the generation before has actually gone through. So that gives us an advantage not to repeat the same mistakes. So that's the power we actually hold as individuals. Now, we need to make sure that we manifest that power. I think that's where the challenge actually comes in as young people. But it would help if you know, we are mentored at church to see exactly where it is that we come from, and so we can try to literally avoid the mistakes that our forefathers actually did. Thanks.
Okay, I also like to add to the two gentlemen. So with me, okay, I'm not that young, first of all. I'm a millennial, yeah. But I've seen with the young ones, I'm a 2000, the Gen Zs, the energy and that power that they have. They might have the similar ones to the ones of 1976. It's just that the elders or other people, they take it badly, like they are not organized or they are too loud. But maybe if we can get, just to add on what he said, guidance, that their loudness, that stubbornness, that they can direct it towards a good thing, you know. And another thing, the youth of today, they have information, access to too much information, maybe freedom as well. But if we can get direction from the elders how to use that freedom or channel it in a good way or correct manner, social media, there are people now, young people who are using social media to as their income, as their source of income, to do good things, to do like great things which we didn't do, maybe as millennials, or which we didn't have that social media, you know. But if we can get people who will guide them, who will make them to use the opportunities that they have to use it correctly. Yeah.
Thank you. So basically, the key takeaways is that the challenges that our parents faced and that we face today are different, but the key is that we have the power within ourselves and we've got the information to solve them. So I'll direct this to Surgeon Tutuga. How can we empower the youth to become leaders in their communities?
Thank you again. I just want to firstly talk about the youth of 1976 and the challenges that they were facing. Because they were facing, as you were saying now, that they were fighting against the system of apartheid, not wanting to learn in Afrikaans. And you compare that to the challenges that we face now. If you first look at what happened in 2014, you saw the Fees Must Fall uprising, how young people fought for free education, how that forced the government to actually make education free. But when you move from that, you look at where we are now, the level of education that is being given to the young people in communities in South Africa. If you compare the education in the townships to what is in the suburbs, you realize that we're actually being given poor education. And that's where most of our young people are, Black South Africans. That's where they are. So how do we then empower those people? You then have to educate them about the history of where we come from, how we developed from fighting apartheid, from fighting the Fees Must Fall fight, and how can we improve to where we are now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think knowing where we come from is very important. And I think we also have to be practical and practice what we preach as leaders, as older people, as people who have traveled the way before that are going to now try and lead people on that same path that we've traveled and advise people. I think we need to create vehicles and platforms for youth to volunteer. That's whether it's in church or different structures. We should help people, empower the youth to help their communities by serving their communities, being a part of their communities, knowing who's who in their communities. I think it's important for them to also, or for us, to change the syllabus and make it mandatory for young people to volunteer in their communities, because charity starts at home. I think in life orientation, for you to pass matric, you should have volunteered a couple of hours in a certain service or something like that. That empowers the youth and that makes them feel like they can do something instead of somebody coming or a savior coming to save them. It gives them the capacity to be able to explore what they're good at and then volunteer in that field. Then they have experience, which is what most people cry about when people come out of university with degrees but no experience. So they can volunteer in the different fields, empower themselves and empower their communities.
So I think that's just some powerful stuff there in terms of what the youth of today can do. Fees Must Fall. We have current examples of people who are still alive who can show what we can do. And I'd love to just pick up Ndutuwa on what you've added to say that charity begins at home and it starts with volunteering and being active in the communities and where we can serve. So I'll open up to this side to just ask to say, but so how can youth access opportunities of growth and development so that they can become these leaders who can volunteer and grow themselves?
What I would say is, as a young person, being proactive and finding a cause helps so much, because I think as adults, we try to protect young people from the issues that they'll face. We try to protect them from certain things that might hurt them, but those are the exact things that they should be leading in. They should be, protecting. So I think being proactive and finding out what are the issues that I'm facing in my community. I'm seeing that the young people, the young guys are doing drugs. What do I as a young person do in that case? What is my cause, and what could I possibly invest in to make sure that that doesn't happen? Because those are my peers. I can't look at the same people that are having issues and see them as, oh no, it's umzalaga's ban, it's not my problem. So it starts at home and what you see around your friends, the challenges your friends face, and be proactive around each other. And I feel that helps a lot.
Just to add to what she said, I think another way that we do need to create space for the youth is, guys, old people, you need to sometimes retire. There comes an age, when you do get old, there comes an age where it's okay to retire. You look at our president, he's in his 70s. When you go down to the next party, Steenhuisen, I don't think he's much younger. MK is in his 80s. Even if you look at the American elections, it's someone in his 80s running against someone in his late 70s. You guys are going to die in office. And it's not a good thing. You don't create space. It doesn't create space for youth to then themselves become leaders. If there are no positions to take leadership, then you will get no new leaders. So there needs to come, it's a two-way street. You do have to step up at some point, but the opportunity and the space has to be created by those who came before to allow us to step into those opportunities to lead ourselves.
Is very much correct, because what you're asking is how can we develop the youth? And you find out that there's a program called NYDA, which is a National Youth Development Agency. But that institution is not functional, and the youth, they don't know anything about it. And it's supposed to have all the programs that are there to empower the youth, but there's nothing that is being done, and people are just leading but not giving people opportunities.
Can I just quickly jump in there? You know, I think personally, one way you can empower, you need to empower yourself. You need to take self-responsibility as a young person. So for me to answer that question, I would say that you need to prepare all the time. As a young person, is your CV, is it up to date? Is your CV worthy enough, you know, for potential employers to actually look at it and pick you from literally a litany of people? So preparation for me is everything. I think that empowers you to actually do anything. I understand what Comrade Sage is actually saying there about the NYDA, but also at the same time, I think it's all about preparation. You know, don't wait for someone else to open the door for you. Rather, force the door to open for yourself.
So I like that one. Preparation is key. So panel, we're just going to close our eyes. So right now, we're just kulumela phansi, yabo. So just imagine that there was a curtain here, Pastor Vilagazi and Mam Togo, and we're not here. And we're just going to ask, is the church still relevant for the youth today?
Sorry.
Okay, I will go. So I think the church, it is relevant. So as someone who is from a Christian home, my late mom was very much into church. And looking back, I am grateful for that because it has grounded me in certain places, whether workplace or school. So even the youth of today, I think it is relevant today that we are in church, that we are grounded. Yes, we do have homes, we do have different backgrounds, but in church, I'll make an example here at Elohim. You come out of your comfort zone. Look, as now we are here, panel discussing. It prepares you, to speak out in boardrooms, prepares you to speak out wherever, and like you are instilled, like the God is instilled in you so that you are confident to go out there and make an impact in the world. So I think church will always be relevant because there's also issues of depression, anxiety, stress. I'm not saying that praying or because sometimes you need to talk to people. So having that community apart from your friends or your family at church, it's very important, it's very relevant because like you have a different community where you can explore different personalities, how you are in church, at home, or corporate. So I think it's relevant and it will always be relevant in my opinion, yeah.
Thanks, Suli. Serge?
I mean, she's right with what she's saying, that we are sitting here today trying to change the situation in the church, trying to bring light to the situation in a church. So the church will always remain relevant because it also accommodates those that have been rejected by society, those that are affected by alcohol abuse, drug abuse, all the other struggles that people face. They are accommodated in a church, so it will always remain relevant.
Yeah, I just want to add that church prepares you for life. Everything that you need to know about life, you learn at church. You learn from the Bible. You learn from the advice that we get from Obamfundisi and all the pastors every week. And it also gives you the opportunity to network and grow your knowledge base of people that you know. So there's many opportunities in church as well. So as a young person, just getting to know the people around you in church opens doors for you that you wouldn't have been able to have access to if you weren't in that environment in the first place, with people who have open hearts in that time, because the time that we're here, people's hearts are open, but if you meet them at work, maybe you'll meet someone different. So it gives you that access that you wouldn't have in another environment.
Yeah, just maybe to add there, I think it's a very interesting word to use, relevant. I think is church needed? Yes. I think the youth and the world at large is suffering from many issues. And a lot of the issues stem from spirituallessness or a lack of spirituality. You look at the mental issues we have, fatherlessness in homes, abuse, just the list of issues is quite long. And the necessity of church is definitely there. But when you look around the world and you look at just religions and the different religions that they have taken a decline in the number of, especially young people that call themselves religious, the number of young people that go to church, that practice religion. So I think there is the necessity, but the question is church adapting with the times and making sure that it's still relevant to the market where it's needed? And I think that question, in that sense, I think the church itself has a lot to do to meet the people where they are, not try to get people to come to them, because that's a big ask at times, especially when you look at the youth today with technology. Everything's instant, and what they have is instant. So you need to actually meet them where they are and get them to join the church in sort of the environment or around the ways they communicate when it comes to technology and so on. So I think the church needs to improve their relevance in society by meeting the people where they are.
You know, Tembi, can I just quickly add? I like what Usib is actually saying. I think we give him nice answers here. But I like what he's saying. So when you look at, to answer that question, when you look at the young people in church today, how many young people are outside in the world, right? So meaning the world is speaking to young people, as opposed to, yes, the church might be trying to have a reach to young people, but the majority are still out in the world, you know? So it's true that there might be pockets of churches that actually have initiatives to actually speak to young people outside in the world. But in general, if you are to ask me, I would say it is not relevant because the majority are not getting to the word, are not getting the word. So it takes the initiative of the church itself to actually go out and preach to the youth, which is outside.
Yeah. Can I just add? Actually, relevance is relative. Like you just pointed two different points of different sides of the same coin, and I think the problem is actually really the church. And let me put it this way: it's not that people aren't looking for spiritual fulfillment, like you're saying. People are looking for it. People are desperate for it. That's why, unfortunately, we have a lot of shows of showing them the ancestral things and all these things on TV of taking many wives and polygamy and all these things, and they are pushing their agenda. Yeah. What agenda is the church pushing? And how many honest churches are there? I know I'm in the perfect place. I know God is here. But how many churches are there who are pushing their agenda, but are they pushing the right agenda too? Yeah. That's why I started by saying the church needs to look at itself. The church needs to figure out what it's doing and how it's relating to people to figure out, is it relevant? And it is relevant, but the problem is it's the wrong people making the noise, and we aren't in the right spaces and creating the content. We're not creating enough content that speaks to young people. So the young people don't have access to it, they don't see us, they don't hear us. And that's the problem.
Okay, Brother Tutua, that's quite a weighty one to say. The church needs to make some noise. Young people, are we there? Can I hear some noise? Some noise, young people. Okay, so guys, we're just gonna quote Big Zulu right now. Help me, young people. Big Zulu uthi ngifuna ukuba nemali. Walethi yami iqumbe. Ikhanda lidumela uJesu. So that one ukuba nemali eningi leads to my next question ukuthi how can we support young entrepreneurs and innovators of today? Because it's funny imali.
Okay, I can start that one. I think the first thing we need to identify them, right? The relevance of the church. We need to identify them in the church itself. Once we've identified them, equip them obviously with the knowledge of Christ. Because before you can do anything, before you can shine, before you can become a business person, businessman, businesswoman, you need to be steeped into the word of the Lord. Then the second part, I think this is where it's a bit of a challenge, not just in church, but in general with young people, the mentorship. You know, I think this is a challenge. The church would have to identify those individuals and mentor those individuals, which is why it leads me to my earlier point to say, are we prepared as young people? We need to prepare, because you might find someone who can see potential in you. You might find someone who wants to work with you, but if personally you do not prepare yourself, it's going to be waste. You know, wine in old wineskin. It's not going to make sense. So I think we need to identify those people and actually mentor them in the church.
What I can say as a young person and as a person who has young friends is that young people have creative minds, and their language and the way that they get their points across is not going to be the same as our parents and generations before us. They have new, savvy, innovative, and just good ideas that need to be heard. And I think, as we've mentioned, that it's like a two-way street. You know, we need to get to them and hear what their points are, what their ideas are. It might not be as easy because, you know, technology is there and they might be speaking about apps and all these things that are very in the air, but you can't really see them and touch them. But I think if we hear what their interests are, because the beautiful thing about technology is that we see everything that people are interested in. Just by opening your phone, you can see that, okay, they like dancing, you know, what's relevant, what is in their minds. So I think it's us taking the step to showing what we love, showing what we have interest in, and having older generations invest in our desires and our needs. Because I think one thing that I as a young person felt for quite some time is that for a long time, because your plans and your ideas are not in black and white, they're not as theoretical as our parents were. When you try and tell your parent that, look, the journey that I want to take is not the same. It's going to work out, I promise you. You just need to hold on and believe in me. And I think that's just, and having Christ in the church just makes it so much better because he covers your dreams, he covers your minds. Both parties' minds are covered. And I think it's like a two-way street, yeah.
Just to add to what you're saying, I think there's also a very big cultural aspect that comes to it. No matter what you create, if you don't have the support to buy that product or service, that product or service will go nowhere. When you look at Jewish communities, that's a very good example. They watch where they buy their food. They'll walk into a restaurant. If that restaurant's not owned by a Jewish person, they'll immediately leave. They'll go to Jewish schools. They'll support their communities so that the money stays within their community. We come here on Sundays and we think giving offerings a once-off thing. I'm going to give my money here. But then you leave and you spend your hard-earned money at which restaurants, on which clothes, buying what cars, buying what. All your money is getting spent, your godly earned money, on ungodly things or with ungodly people. You have to start looking where that money is going and making sure that that money is circulating, be it within the church, within your community, within your people. But you have to watch where that spend goes. And that spend then will grow the entrepreneurs that you need. If you start supporting your entrepreneurs will grow.
Yeah, I'd like to add on that. So you said, how do we support entrepreneurs and innovators? So I feel like our parents or older generation, it must start when we are young, and not the traditional one. They panic that, you won't make money, or you're uzohlupeka. But how do you support young entrepreneurs, like have confidence in them? If they, like when they go to school, it's fine that they go to school to be entrepreneurs. They don't have to go and work for someone. So if our guidance parents can be open-minded, that, and it will give young people to have that confidence to go ahead with that idea, even if it's not, like she said, black and white. But if you have support, you have confidence to start, take that first step. Yeah.
And I'd just like to add, in an unpopular opinion, I think we've tried to give people fish. I think we've tried to teach people how to fish. I think we must just create an ocean now. I.e., what I think we should do is we should give people a 12,000 rand stimulus every month. If you're South African and you're born in South Africa, from the day you're born, every month you get 12,000 deposited in some account somewhere for you, and then you have access to it when you are a certain age or of a certain age. You can always leverage that money towards your education so that you can get funded for your education because the money's there to pay for it anyways. Once you get to a certain age, that money, you have access to it. Every person, up until you die, gets 12,000 rand. Why 12,000 rand specifically? Because I heard another gentleman say that apparently it costs 12,000 rand to keep a prisoner alive in this country every month. So I'm not a prisoner. Why shouldn't I have that 12,000 rand? And if they want to know where to get that money from, they must get that money from where they get the 12,000 rands for the prisoners.
Leadership says trust fund. So I'm just going to ask, we in the 21st century, what skills do we need? Brother Musa keeps talking about being prepared. What skills do we need to prepare ourselves as young people to be successful in the 21st century?
Oh, okay. So we in the technological era, so it would be redundant if a person doesn't upskill themselves based on what's the technological needs, moving forward. So I literally, we're in the age of AI, For those who have children, their kids go to schools and they do robotics because that's the era, right? So I think we need to upskill ourselves based on the technological needs. Yes, accounting would still be required, right? Being a lawyer would still be required, but the age of AI is literally going to take literally almost everything. So we need to be prepared for that. The only way we can be prepared for that is if we upskill ourselves towards the technological era.
What I could say is financial literacy. I think that's one thing that not just the youth, but also just people in general in society, we no longer have the struggle of not affording stuff. But the key is, how do you make that last? And I think that's the one thing that that the other race has really taken away from us is, okay, you can afford the car, you can have the house, but how do you maintain that? How do you make more of that? Can you buy 2 of it? What happens if you lose it tomorrow? So I think financial literacy for a young person is the perfect way to start, because regardless of whether they get the trust fund money or they get a regular corporate job or whatever funds that come their way, because of the opportunity, they can sustain it throughout.
I think it's important to have basic life orientation skills. So I think a lot of us are taught that, getting married is a stress. Women, put your hair lying back here. Children are expensive, and we run away from those sort of things quite often. And those are the things that will actually bring you purpose and stability. And I think that's a very good grounding for anything that you want to do in the future. I think the second thing that you have to realize is that there's a difference between school and learning. We live in an era where on your phone you can access almost any piece of information you need. You don't need to go to school to learn. You can take your phone, you can learn any skill, art, trade. You can become an accountant, not by profession, but by practice. You don't actually need a certificate behind what you do to be able to learn something. So I think that's something that we as a generation need to start practicing more and understanding more.
I also think emotional intelligence. It's a skill that people don't have. It leads to developing other skills like common sense, because people apparently don't have common sense. So emotional intelligence is vital because in any environment, you need to be able to adapt. And being human is about adapting and understanding people and putting yourself in another person's shoes so that you don't have any conflict, or you can resolve conflict in an amicable way instead of these wars that we have right now.
I think they've mentioned the skills that are needed by young people today to be able to navigate the 21st century. But what I would say is that, you know, you can have the skills and we can be emotionally intelligent, we can be qualified, we can graduate. What then happens when we graduate? You find out that there's a lot of people that have graduated and not employed. Why is that? It's because we don't have the right leadership. We don't have the right people at a leadership position to be able to administer the programs that are supposed to empower young people. So it's not a skill, but it's actually something that young people need to do, is that they need to put their voice out there. It's unfortunate that we're having these discussions after the elections, not before, because a lot of young people, I don't think they voted as much as they could have. So I think as young people need to put our voice out there and make sure that we put the right people in the right places so that they can make sure that we get that 12,000 rand every month that the brother was talking about.
Okay, so thank you very much. So what I did here is that there's a big power in learning. It's not just about formal education, as great as it is. It's about applying that learning and raising your voice to be heard. So I'm just going to open up to the floor for a few questions to ask this beautiful panel. Can I just see by a raise of hands if there are a few questions before we wrap up? Okay. Sis Kaya is going to help us with the mic. I see Mama with the first hand. Any other question? Please raise your hand. Okay. Yes, Ma?
Good morning, panel. I have a question to young people. It seems as if there is something that is making young people not to want to get married. And I need to, please help me understand.
Okay, who's going to take that one?
You know, there's a picture that I've seen of my father when he was, I think, in his 20s, and he had an afro. And then he got married, and I have not seen hair on his head since. But I do think it's a social thing. I think there's an element created that society tells us that marriage is problematic, and it tells us that women are the enemy, and that children are an expense. And it's a very bad thing to teach young people, because that it teaches them to then not want to get into marriage, not want to have kids. And it's also teaching men that when you do have kids, it's not your responsibility to look after that kid. And it's especially prominent amongst black society and black communities. And you see a lot of fatherless homes. You see a lot of men, especially older men, who are coming to clubs, going for younger women. I promise you, a lot of us have probably lost girlfriends to people our father's ages. And it's because there's an element of it that's social, that needs to be dealt with, where you need to tell men that if you're in your 50s and 60s, you have no business going into a club. You need to tell kids that if you're in your early 20s, it's a good thing to get married. A woman brings you stability, brings you purpose. Children bring you purpose. But these are things that I think we're not taught, and we have to somehow hope we'll find or bump into as we go through life, which makes it very difficult for us then to want to commit to.
Thanks. Next question.
Okay, I greet you all again. My question is about the church, and then it's about the solution in whatever it's being said. I can hear that we are outlining the problems, and then we are outlining whatever the youth is facing. But then now is the problem that we face is that there are no action that have been taken. We also, us as youth, we also outline our problems and the situation that we tend to face. But then the problem becomes there are no actions that have been taken. And then to come to the one of the church, my concern is that I'm not seeing enough effort to bring the youth to the church. So my question is that what can we do now to attract our youth?
you know, I was in the house and my mother was on the social media, not social media, on the news outlets or something like that. It came out, Casper Nyovest is a Christian. And then she started screaming and shouting, "Oh my gosh," and praise God, Casper Nyovest is going to bring the youth to the church. And in that moment, it made sense, and it does make sense, and it's true. Like, he will. Because we need more examples of people in prominent positions, people who the kids think cool, people who the kids, whose opinion the kids value, professing their love for Christ with no bias or without any fear, because everybody else does it. And what I see happen a lot is in the programming that we watch, a lot of youth watch is, I watch too, is that Jesus Christ is like is a swear word. They will say things and use the Lord's name in vain as a swear word in that context. So it conditions the youth to think of the church in a negative way, and then obviously the news media doesn't help. So when a pastor does something, or a pastor or someone in the church does something negative, it gets blown up. But when we do a lot of stuff, good stuff, today isn't going to be written about in Sunday Times. The fact that we're here on this panel is not going to be written about in Sunday Times. So some of the issues are systematic, institutional, but I think we can just create more platforms for ourselves, and it costs money, because you need funding, you need backing, but then you also need the cool content creators or the Casper Nyovest and them to come and host a show related to that Christian values, and then hopefully then the kids and everybody else will start coming to church.
Yeah. So for me, as much as we are focusing on the youth, it's not exposed to the church, I would like not to neglect and acknowledge that there are platforms, especially social media. I like joining Jesus this, Jesus that. It goes up to 8,000 people on the live. We must acknowledge that, as much as it's not where it's supposed to be, but comparing back and now, in my opinion, I feel like this generation is hungry for Christ. Like we spoke that, okay, some may be exposed to the wrong side, but it's up to us to pick up your phone. Even TikTok, guys, maybe it's my algorithm. I see a lot of young people preaching, young people having, like you will see in their bio, every Thursday, Tuesday, they have their own lives where, besides Rorisang, where people will join in to listen to the word. Some, they will do their Bible studies, whether you have 5 or 10, it starts somewhere. So we must acknowledge that there are young people who are doing that. And sometimes you must not wait for the church or wait for us to bring the youth to the church. Let's go out there. We know that the youth are using social media. Let's use what we have to go to them, to appeal to them. Like we have things on your timeline which are not of God. But imagine if all of us, all the time, you post Bible scriptures in our way, you will be exposed to that content. So as much as, yes, we are not there, but compared to my generation, not that far, and to here, I feel like we are doing, like the youth of today, it's doing something good with Christ. They are hungry for God, and it's beautiful. I've attended even the Jesus this, Jesus that, it gets packed, and it's all young people. So we must not, ignore that or neglect that, because there are people, young people who are hungry for Christ. Yeah.
Thank you. So this has just been a beautiful discussion. And then just to summarize the key points that I've heard is that as youth, we are powerful. As youth, we have the power within us to drive our futures. We need to be hungry, we need to be prepared, and we need to tap into the people we have access to and the opportunities that we have in our community. We must be the ones to go forward and capture the opportunities as opposed to waiting for the opportunities to come to us or for life to happen to us. So church, would you join me in giving my panel a warm round of applause as we thank them for such a beautiful discussion. Siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you.